The setting of the female characters in this anime is very special. They all are transformed humans with sexy bodies. To control them, the director of the lab installs a special device on their bodies. If they don't take pills in time, they will bleed all over their bodies until they melt and die. To survive, the girls have to obey all of the director's orders. Until the male protagonist shows up, they can finally get rid of being controlled. Let's start today's recap. 10 years ago, the male protagonist Ryota and the girl whom he has been playing with since childhood decided to play at the dam. The girl firmly believes there are aliens in this world and the Earth has been occupied by aliens, whose base is near the dam. While searching for the aliens, Ryota and the girl accidentally fell into the water. After being rescued, Ryota survived, but the girl died. 10 years later, he joins the astronomy club with the girl's dream, observing the starry sky in search of the aliens' whereabouts every day. As time passes by, Ryota gradually forgets the girl's real name, only remembering the 3 moles under her armpit and that she is called Kuroneko. One day, a transfer student named Nico comes to Ryota's class. She looks exactly like Kuroneko, and Ryota feels very shocked. To verify that Nico is Kuroneko, Ryota offers to check Nico's armpit in front of everyone. Nico doesn't know Ryota and takes him as a pervert, slapping him. During swimming class, a female classmate's thigh is sucked in the pool. When Nico sees it, she suddenly says that 2 students in this school will die today. But Nico's prophecy does not come true. With the efforts of the teacher and classmates, the female classmate is rescued. After school, Ryota comes to the observatory to observe the stars. But to his surprise, Nico also comes to the observatory. She reminds Ryota that 2 students will die today. One of them is the girl who was in danger at the pool, but she is eventually rescued. The other student is Ryota. If Ryota misses the last train, he will die. Nico finishes her mission. As she is about to leave, she is drawn to the constellation chart on the wall. She asks Ryota how many zodiac signs there are, and Ryota tells her that there is a list below the image. Seeing this, Nico starts to count. Ryota thinks she is very strange because she can get the total number by multiplying the numbers in each row and column, and she doesn't need to count them one by one. When he asks Nico, he learns that she doesn't know the 9-9 table, which is the knowledge of the 2nd grade of elementary school, and Ryota doesn't know why Nico doesn't even know such basic math. Nico feels very angry. Although Ryota is smarter than her, she believes that her wrist strength must be stronger than Ryota's. At Ryota's suggestion, they have an arm wrestling competition. Nico's arm is soft and has no muscles, but her wrist strength is indeed much stronger than Ryota's, which makes Ryota feel very strange. At this time, Nico receives a phone call. After the call, Nico tells Ryota that the prophecy has changed. For his safety, it is better for him to stay at the observatory tonight. After saying this, Nico leaves the observatory. During then, she thinks of the accident she encountered. At that time, a lady named Akane gave her an important item and told her that she was the only one who could save the world. Nico doesn't know how to save the world, but she will try hard to save those she knows will die. As the memory ends, Nico once again receives the information that the prophecy has changed. Because Ryota not only left the observatory, but also did not choose to take the bus. Nico's prophecy comes true, and Ryota is in danger. When he is about to be crushed by the boulder, Nico rushes to protect him. Seeing Nico smash the boulder with her hand, Ryota feels very shocked. Nico explains that she is a witch. She escaped from the lab, and her body was modified, so she possesses a very great amount of power. When Nico shows the harness attached to the nape of her back, Ryota sees her armpit and confirms that she is not Kuroneko because she has no moles on her body. Before parting, Nico wants Ryota to keep it a secret for her. If the fact that she is a witch is exposed, she will be captured and killed by the lab staff. Ryota agrees. Although Nico doesn't have a mole on her, he still thinks she's like Kuroneko. Because they are classmates, he thinks he still has many opportunities to confirm Nico's identity. Unexpectedly, Nico does not come to school the next day. Since Nico's home address she wrote is close to the observatory, the teacher asks Ryota to help bring the transfer application to Nico. To Ryota's surprise, the address is fake. As Ryota intends to leave, he discovers an abandoned village not far away. Thinking that the abandoned village is perfect for hiding, he decides to see if Nico will be there. He walks into the abandoned village and really meets Nico. Nico tells him that she transferred to his school only to help them avoid death. Now that they were saved, she doesn't think she needs to go to school again. Ryota does not want Nico to give up her studies and asks her to continue attending school, only to be rejected by Nico. Ryota doesn't want to give up. Because Nico resembles Kuroneko, he always thinks of her unconsciously. He runs back and comes to Nico's house, but overhears her conversation with others. Nico says she doesn't have much time left. If she is close to Ryota, Ryota may die because of her. Ryota thinks it is very strange. As Nico temporarily leaves, he walks into the bedroom, where a girl is lying on the bed, but she can't move. When Ryota is surprised, Nico explains that the girl's name is Kana. Kana is completely paralyzed by the experiment, and only the fingers of her left hand can move. But the experiments gave Kana the ability to foresee, and she can communicate with a keyboard. At this time, Kana tells Nico that Kanade has been captured by the people of the lab. Kanade, like them, has participated in the experiments. Not long ago, they ran out of the lab together, because Kanade was captured by the people at the lab. Nico feels very sad. They don't have much time left, and Kana wants Nico to enjoy campus life. Under Kana's influence, Nico returns to school, but Nico has never been to school, and she can't even read the textbook. When Nico is asked by her teacher to read the text, Ryota helps her. He lies that he is sick and asks Nico to take him to the infirmary. During then, Nico receives a call from Kana, who foresees what will happen next. 15 minutes later, a lady dressed in red will have an accident near the station. In order to save her life, Nico and Ryota rush to the station. Unexpectedly, they meet the lady in red at the school gate and almost crash into her, causing her to avoid the accident. Meanwhile, Kanade is caught to the lab. The director of the lab asks her to reveal the whereabouts of the other witches. Because Kanade refuses to answer, she is eventually killed by the director. Later, Ryota comes to Nico's house with the cake. Because Kana can only eat liquids, Nico handles the cake with a blender. As Ryota intends to leave, Nico suddenly has a lot of nosebleeds. Though seriously injured, she insists she just has a cold and refuses to tell Ryota the real reason. When Ryota checks on Nico, Nico tells him that witches must take a pill called death suppressants within 30 to 35 hours every day to survive. She only has 10 pills left, and she and Kana can only take it for 5 days. Because there is a school summer camp next week, she tries to save up so that she can survive until the day she goes to the beach with Ryota. After taking the pill, she falls asleep, but she forgets that she is boiling water in the kitchen, causing the house to catch fire. Ryota rushes into the bedroom and rescues Kana, but their death suppressants are destroyed by fire. Thankfully, Ryota has a very good memory. He won't forget everything he has seen, and he remembers the identification code for death suppressants and the pharmaceutical company. He returns to the observatory and finds the address of the factory online. In order to shut down the security system of the pharmaceutical factory, Nico contacts a girl named Kazumi. Kazumi is also a witch who escaped from the lab. Her skills are network related, and she's very good at hacking network systems. Kazumi promises to help them shut down the pharmaceutical company's security system, but they have to give her half of the death suppressants they take away as a reward. At this time, Kana foresees Nico's death. The person who kills her is named Saori, a AA rank witch. Nico and Kana are both defective and B rank witches, and they are totally no match for Saori in strength. But in order to get the death suppressants, they decide to break into the pharmaceutical factory. Before entering the factory, Nico hands Ryota a letter, in which she says she will attract Saori's attention and ask Ryota to find the medicine. She hopes that Ryota will leave as soon as he finds the medicine and not save her. But Ryota worries that Nico will be in danger, and he rushes to her side as soon as possible. While Nico and Saori are fighting, Ryota sees the moles on Nico's body. Because Nico has grown up, the location of the moles is not the same as when she was a child. Based on the 3 moles, Ryota determines that she is Kuroneko. Ryota wants to help Nico, but he never expects that he will witness Nico's death again. Because Saori can manipulate time, Ryota, in order to save Nico, stabs Saori with a weapon and threatens her to change the time. Afraid of death, Saori can only get the time back to 1 minute ago, and Ryota manages to capture Saori. Although Ryota succeeds in saving Nico, he loses his memory of this minute and forgets the fact that Nico is Kuroneko. In the end, Saori is killed by the director of the lab from a distance because of the failure of the mission. Ryota and Nico find 2 boxes of death suppressants in the factory. They rush back to the observatory and help Kana take the death suppressants. In return, Kazumi takes a box of death suppressants. A week later, Nico attends the school's summer camp and comes to the beach with Ryota. Nico yearned for the ocean when she was a child. Although she forgets about the past, she still feels very moved when she sees the ocean. With Nico's efforts, she gradually adapts to campus life and keeps up with the learning progress of other students. One day, Nico gives a mysterious communication device and a container with a fertilized alien egg to Ryota. This was given to her by Akane, who said that only Nico could save the world. But Nico doesn't think she has the power to save the world, and she hopes that Ryota can help her. After school, they get wet in the rain, and Ryota takes a bath after he comes to the observatory. There is a hot spring near the observatory, and Ryota meets Kazumi when he is bathing. Kazumi is very interested in Ryota, even showing her private part to him. After that, Kazumi transfers to Ryota's school. On the same day, a student named Kotori also transfers here. Kotori is interested in astronomy and decides to join the astronomy club. With Kazumi and Kotori's joining, Ryota organizes an astronomical observation. When Kotori is observing the sky, Ryota sees the harness on her back. At this time, Kana tells Ryota that she foresees that Nico will be killed by Kotori. Hearing this, Ryota becomes suspicious of Kotori. He debunks the fact that Kotori is a witch, but Kotori doesn't admit that she comes to kill them, claiming that she won't hurt anyone. Nico is very gentle. She doesn't think they should be suspicious of Kotori. Kotori is very grateful to Nico, and she has a very good time at the astronomical club. At the end of the astronomical observation, Kana secretly tells Ryota that the prophecy has changed again. The person killed by Kotori becomes Ryota. Later, Kazumi receives a call for help. A witch named Shino is hunted down by the lab. Nico is very worried about Shino and decides to go to her rescue immediately, because Kana's predicted time of death is approaching. Ryota is afraid that Nico will be in danger and decides to follow her. Unfortunately, when they arrive, they happen to see Shino killed. The witch who killed Shino is named Kakako. Ryota notices that there will be a time lag before she attacks. He thinks they can go around Kakako's back while she is preparing to attack and turn off her harness. To avenge Shino, Nico challenges Kakako. At this time, Kotori ties herself to the pillar. Kotori's skill is to switch positions. Ryota was misled by Kana's prophecy and became suspicious of Kotori. In fact, Kotori doesn't want to hurt them. She has always looked forward to campus life, and she had a very pleasant time on these 2 days. Now she has no worries in this world. Worrying that Nico will be in danger, she decides to sacrifice herself and switch positions with Nico. Ryota thinks that Kotori doesn't need to sacrifice herself. As long as Kotori and Kakako switch positions, Nico can avoid danger. At Ryota's suggestion, they manage to capture Kakako. But Kotori still doesn't want to survive, and she hides secretly, ready to die. Ryota and Nico find Kotori by following her home address on the application form. Kotori tells them that today is her birthday, and she gets to be alive because of her good friend Chie. They didn't have many death suppressants. In order to keep Kotori alive, Chie voluntarily stopped taking the pills, leaving all the pills to Kotori. Because Kotori yearns for campus life, Chie used her skill to rewrite the data and help her become a high school student. Kotori feels very remorseful. She would rather die of stopping taking the pills than take someone else's pills again. Ryota insists on giving the pills to Kotori. He vows to try to find more death suppressants, hoping that Kotori will not give up her life. Touched by Ryota's words, Kotori takes the death suppressants. When the crisis is over, Ryota decides to ask his uncle for help. His uncle, Kagoro, is a very good pharmacist, and he wants Kagoro to help reproduce the death suppressants. In order to convince Kagoro of the existence of the witches, he asks the witches to show great destructive power. Kagoro becomes so interested in the witch that he decides to help Ryota. Ryota tells Kagoro about his acquaintance with the witches and asks Kagoro to help copy the death suppressants. Kagoro thinks that copying death suppressants will take half a year to a year, unless the active ingredients are crystalline compounds, and only in this way can it be likely to be synthesized within a month. In addition, Ryota gives the alien's fertilized egg to Kagoro to help find out the truth. Unfortunately, Kagoro tells Ryota after the analysis that the active ingredients of death suppressants are not crystalline compounds, and it will take him half a year to copy death suppressants. But the death suppressants they have can only last for a month, and they must find new ones as soon as possible. Ryota tells the sad news to the others. In order to find the death suppressants, he also asks Kotori about the lab. Kotori says she saw aliens before. Rumor has it that 100 years ago, someone found the alien ruins, and the lab was established to study life in higher dimensions. After that, Ryota takes the communication device given by Nico to the Akiba in Japan. He turns on the communication device and tries to find the location of the lab. The communication device displays a map that appears to direct him to the location on the map. Ryota thinks it is the only way they can find the lab. For safety, Ryota wants the witches to be on standby at the observatory, while he goes to the location on the map alone. Kazumi is very worried about Ryota. Before Ryota sets out for the lab, she offers to have intimate interactions with him. Ryota is very shy, and he rejects Kazumi. Before they fall asleep, Kazumi hugs Ryota tight, hoping that Ryota will protect himself. Afterward, Ryota follows the clues on the map and finds a church. At this time, several police officers arrest Ryota for trespassing into the house. When Ryota is about to be captured, Nico and Kotori arrive to protect him. They tell Ryota that they come to find him because Kana foresees that he will be mistakenly killed by police. Meanwhile, the lab sends a new witch, Nanami, to find Ryota. Nanami's skills are very powerful. She is able to quickly read, erase, and rewrite people's memories by looking at their eyes. But she is very lonely. When she finds information about Ryota, she manages to escape the surveillance staff, intending to live a day of freedom. Later, Nanami uses her skill to force Ryota's junior to take him to the park. After meeting Nanami, Ryota keenly discovers her witch identity, as well as her skills. Nanami confirms the location of Nico and the others with her skill, and then deletes all of Ryota's memories. But because Ryota has the ability to never forget, Nanami does not succeed in erasing his memory. Ryota returns to the observatory and tells the others about Nanami. Nico is very kind, and she wants to save Nanami and help her out of the control of the lab. Ryota agrees with Nico's idea. When they find Nanami, Nanami rewrites Nico's memory in order to protect herself, but she never expects that she will see the memory of them trying to save her. Nanami is very moved. Because the lab isolates her from other witches, she only has contact with a small number of experimenters, and she is very lonely. Nanami's dream is to have friends who will not forget her. She is impressed by Nico and Ryota, and she decides to become friends with them. Eventually, they return to the observatory with Nanami. To prevent the people of the lab from using the harness to control Nanami, Ryota enlists Kagoro as help. Unfortunately, before Kagoro can deal with the harness, Nanami is killed by the director from a distance. Before she dies, she transfers the information about the lab she knows to Ryota. After the final exam, Nico surpasses Ryota to become the first in her class. In order to celebrate the arrival of summer vacation, they come to the beach together. During then, Ryota accidentally sees Nico's private part, and he is very excited. They have a very pleasant stay by the sea. After that, the lab sends an S-rank witch Mako to find Ryota. Mako is so powerful that she creates a big explosion during her mission. A witch named Hatsune survives the explosion. She overhears that there are 4 witches at the observatory and intends to ask them for death suppressants. In addition, Hatsune tells them that Mako is on a mission to capture the witches and wants them to be more careful. Because Ryota is an ordinary human, Hatsune isn't sure if he can be trusted. To test this, Hatsune climbs onto a nearby high-voltage tower and asks Ryota to rescue her. After Ryota comes to her side, she deliberately falls off the high-voltage tower. Luckily, Ryota grabs her in time. Hatsune thinks Ryota has passed her test, but Ryota's physical strength has reached the limit, and after throwing Hatsune onto the tower, he falls. At the critical moment, Kotori protects him with her skill. Deeply touched, Hatsune falls in love with Ryota and offers to start a relationship with him. Knowing that Hatsune kisses Ryota, Nico feels very jealous. Soon after, Kagoro tells Ryota that he needs another month to copy the death suppressants, but the remaining death suppressants can only last for a week, and only one person who eats all the pills can stay alive. After learning that their death suppressants are running out, Hatsune decides not to ask them for death suppressants. Nico, Kotori, and Kana voluntarily give up taking death suppressants, giving the hope of living to Kazumi. Kazumi is reluctant to accept their kindness, and she wants to spend her last moments with them, toasting with everyone. But Kotori accidentally knocks over the juice, which splashes Nico's clothes. While Kotori cleans Nico's clothes, Ryota sees the moles on Nico's body. These 3 moles make Ryota determine that Nico is Kuroneko. At this time, the director of the lab takes Mako to the observatory. They try to capture Kotori and eliminate the other witches. In order to protect Nico, Ryota helps her block Mako's attacks. When Ryota is about to die, he sees Nanami, who tells him that Nico is more powerful than Mako, but her power is unstable and sealed by the lab. In order to defeat Mako, Nanami explains to Ryota how to lift the seal. With his last force, Ryota reminds Nico that by pressing the button at the top of the harness, they may be able to lift the seal. When the director discovers it, he orders Mako to eliminate them as soon as possible. But some witch hunters from the group named Hexenjagd come to the observatory and resist Mako's attack. The director doesn't want to fight the witch hunters, and he leaves with Kotori and Mako immediately. Hatsune's skill is resurrection, and she saves Ryota with her skill. After waking up, Ryota asks the witch hunter why they have to kill the witch. The witch hunter tells him that as long as the witch is alive, the Drazzles inside their harness will hatch and devour their bodies, and the Drazzles of Kotori is the most special. The director of the lab transferred his sister's consciousness to Kotori after his sister died of illness. Kotori's Drazzles is a special product made by the director, and it is called grain. According to their findings on alien ruins, they found that all humans on Earth were made by aliens, and the aliens built a way to reset Earth into humanity's genes. As long as the grain hatches in Kotori, the cells of all living things will be eliminated, and the Earth will become a planet devoid of life. Ryota believes that witch hunters do not need to kill witches because they don't have enough death suppressants and they only have a week left to live. If they give up killing Nico and the others, he will help find out where Kotori is. Finally, he and the witch hunter come to an agreement, and they confirm the location of Kotori. But the grain in Kotori's body has finished hatching and is about to destroy all cells of the living things on Earth. In order to save her friends, Kotori voluntarily ends her life. At this time, Ryota arrives. Kotori regains her previous memories, and she asks Ryota to help stop the director and tells him to stop hurting other people. Ryota truthfully conveys Kotori's words, but the director does not give up the idea of killing the witches, and he orders Mako to kill Ryota and Nico. When Nico is about to be killed, Kana rushes to protect her. Under great stimulation, Nico regains her childhood memories. At this time, the witch hunters arrive and fight Mako. To protect Mako, the director dies. Seeing the one she loves dies, Mako decides to destroy the whole world. In order to stop Mako, Nico decides to die with her. Before the duel, Nico takes the initiative to kiss Ryota and confesses her love to him. She has loved Ryota since she was a child, and she will continue to like him in the future. Following the confession, a fierce battle breaks out between Nico and Mako. Ultimately, Mako is defeated by Nico, but Nico experiences the loss of her past memories again. At the end of the story, Kagoro achieves successful replication of the death suppressants, and all the witches, except for Kotori, manage to survive. They will keep the selfless witches who made sacrifices in their minds. The story ends here. The worldview and the setting of Brynhildr in the darkness are very interesting. Though it ends with a snap ending, no one can deny the charm of this anime. The setting of the witches is not very new in anime, but the witches in this anime are very special, and every female character is attractive. What's your favorite female character? Comment below to tell me. Thanks for watching. Please give this video a like to help my channel out. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Your support can really push me to make more recaps. Bye!